Dimp Digital Presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is the weekly video games podcast where we give our impressions of the games that you can play today and react to the latest goings on from the wonderful world of video games. We're here every Monday on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, absolutely free. This week, I'm joined once again by our resident referee. It's Logan. How's it going?
Nearly not the resident referee, I think, is where we were at earlier this week.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was. We will speak about that in briefly at the top of the show, but yeah, there was speculation mounting. We've seen what the FIA did with Massey. He's been booted out for decisions that were made at the back end of the F1 season. He's gone. You were not subjected to the same fate. And the position comes with the full backing, apparently, of the independent review that was taking place. I did not have a hand in that, other than admin. Really, I was doing admin, just gathering all the toot together. But we will speak about that. We've got a little bit of a news segment to come up to start with. Chat about a little bit of what's been going on this last week, particularly when it relates to Hogwarts Legacy, which was not blown out, but revealed quite deeply from a Sony State of Play last week. So we'll run through that. And at the end, we will transition to a pre-recorded impression session of a game that I have no idea what I'm going to put on the end here. It depends on the time. So you guys that have read the show notes will know before I do, as I sit here and record this. So I don't know what you're going to get, but we've done a fair few of those, and it's time to start rolling that stuff out. So let's talk quickly about the gaming quiz controversy of 2021. I mean, it's almost 3 months ago now, and it was still squabbling on. The long and short of it was that Adkins was caught cheating. We all knew that. It's all in the show. Go back and listen to it. He was deducted a point for the question in which he admitted to. Now, we don't know if he was cheating throughout. No way of telling. Then throughout the new year into spring, there were rumblings that potentially Adcock had cheated as well in relation to a specific question involving Griezmann and his ambassador status for Konami and eFootball being stripped after what was... I mean, I've not seen the video, but it allegedly involves him being somewhat racist in some ways. So he was, cut from that, and the answer was Antonio Griezmann. And then there was complaints lodged that Adcock can't have known that, wouldn't have known that because he don't watch football that often. I mean, I don't watch football that often these days, but that sort of stuff seeps in. Anyway, evidence was submitted, including statements and some screenshots of various conversations. I took it and just gave it to someone else to look at who was not involved in the quiz. So Logan was made aware that this was happening, but he had no input in the decision. I had no input in the decision. They reviewed it all, and Adcock was unsurprisingly cleared of all allegations. And that result stands. We will look forward to 2022. But from your perspective, any comment on this saga that has blown over for almost 3 months now with complaints and squabbling? It's not on, is it?
I mean, I don't know why it's so much of a concern this year. I mean, the fact that I mean, there's always been, we've always accepted that everyone can cheat if they want in this quiz. Like, since we started it, it's always been done over Discord or Skype. Like, We've never done it in person.
No, for good reason.
You just have to trust, I guess, that people will do it in the right spirit. I guess that's all you can do.
You just want them to have a shred of integrity, and we found out that
exactly.
We know some don't, and karma will catch them. It'll get them. So if you have been cheating all these years, it'll come get you.
And even when I was refereeing that, I wanted to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because it's like, what is anyone really getting out of cheating in this? Like, there's nothing really on the line. It's just for entertainment and a good bit of fun, and just to see where everyone lands up. And lo and behold, Adkins. And if we hadn't pushed that further, he would have just kept quiet and got away with it. So we say he's got integrity. He hasn't. But you could argue for a lot of those questions. I mean, some of them are hard. Like the 80% at least of those questions, I sit there and go, "Well, I don't know." Like really,
Yeah.
and most people get them right. And you think, well, there is enough time there for them to go on Google and ask that question and just bung it in. But what can you do at the end of the day? What can you do? You can't say, "Oh, it's like me getting a Nintendo question right."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you'd go, well, he doesn't know about it. No, I don't, but I might have known that.
Yeah.
So that's all you can say.
There was absolutely no water to it. And then I don't know what people wanted either, because like at the time, you know, there was a tiebreak that took place during the quiz because we were unaware that we had suspicions that Adkins may have cheated, but at the time we hadn't got the admission. It went to a tiebreaker, and Adcock won the tiebreaker, so it didn't matter anyway. So now, if let's just say, for example, Adcock was convicted of cheating on this one question, he would have had the same punishment as Adkins. 1 point would have been removed. Guess what? They would have been level on points. And guess what?
Yeah.
We already done a tiebreaker, and guess who won? Adcock already won. So, did they want Adcock to be disqualified retrospectively? And in that case, Adkins has got to go. Then Parky's won it. Parky don't want to win one like that.
I reckon Parky's instigated it all.
Well, he might have done.
In hand.
He's on for triple crown status if he wins that.
He's trying to play the Dimp politics against everyone, I think, is where we're going with this.
That could be true.
No, I mean, look, it is what it is. The quiz is what it is. Unless we did it in person and confiscated phones and stuff, like there's no way. Would it be interesting if Adkins, who's been one of the top scorers in the quiz over the years, if we did it in person, he'd come bottom or something.
Yeah.
You'd really start questioning the amount of cheating he's done in the past. But it is what it is. I think hopefully we can just put it to bed now and walk away from it this year.
Yeah.
Or say last year, technically.
Agreed. So there's been some extra fallout from that. In light of this paper, put a statement out saying he's retiring from competition. You know what? He's struggling with that fantasy gaming league this year. It's really getting on top of him. He's melting slowly at that. Parky has really put some manners on him at the moment, and I can just see it's too much for him to handle. So I'm not surprised by that. And let's be frank, he's finished plumb last all but one time, maybe two. So it's a demoralising state, especially when he has to scrape and scratch just to not equal Biff's record of the worst score ever. I think that's playing on his mind a bit. He's got a lot on his plate this year. Parky has come spitting fire in the Fantasy Gaming League and has put paper in a real tricky position, and we're not even out of Q1. We'll get a little update on that later. And the last kind of item for the quiz of 2021, before we permanently close the book, is that we've had this chap Rumble, friend of the show. He's in the social medias. I love all the memes he's doing. He's been splicing together videos and all sorts for comedic effect. He's sort of been leading the charge for the protest against Adcock, basically from a fan perspective. But it required an internal party to formally lodge that before we were going to do anything with it. But he's kind of taken a mantle of what I perceive to be a core community lead. Now I'm not going to, it's not for me to decide who's part of that community, or core community, I should say. People can do what they want. But what I will say is, I've done an audit check. He ain't putting hand in pocket.
Oh!
There's no hand in pocket coming. So, I mean, I'm not saying you can't be the lead of the core community. You're in the comments most weeks, but...
So are we saying no sub?
Wow.
Is that where we're at?
This isn't a, you don't pay, you don't play. This isn't Sunday League sort of Britannia Brit football going on. But I just want to put it out there.
Queries have to be asked.
We talk about hashtag hand in pocket, and it's going to be a lead of the community. But then again, I know there's other people that we have in there, like good Shelley, who turns up on our streams. He don't put hand in pocket, but he's there every week modding the chat. But maybe Rumble can serve a sort of a community lead of sorts, and a player who can arrange offline events for all the dozens of fans that tune in.
Dozens
that tune in every week. I think it's in three figures at least now. If you add up all the metrics. GDC Awards is this week, March the 23rd. So looking to see whether It Takes Two gets the hat trick of the Game Awards dice and GDC. That'll be a real feather in their cap. I'm having trouble also with the PlayStation Store again. I had issues claiming Final Fantasy VII Remake and the upgraded PS5 version, which they unlocked some months later because I'd already played the disc version on my PlayStation. It's to do with licensing. It said you've already owned it. And now I'm having trouble with Ghost of Tsushima. I don't want to buy the PS4 to PS5 upgrade, but it's a discounted price, you see. So I've already got it digitally. I can upgrade it. But because I claimed Ghost of Tsushima Legends, a PS5 and PS Plus game for March, it's saying I can't use the discounted upgrade because I already own like this piece of shit item in there. It's something like Ghost of Tsushima Trial Tracker outfit, and I'm like, so I emailed Sony, and they basically said, well, you have to wait for your PlayStation Plus subscription to run down, and then it'll unlock the upgrade. And I'm like, what are we doing?
It's not acceptable, is it?
So I've gone back twice, and they've come up with the same response. The next stage will be to request a refund for the PS Plus. There's nothing to refund, but to remove that from my library and see what happens. And they've said that won't work, but the internet says otherwise. The internet are not to be trusted, though. We have to keep that in mind. But
that's a bizarre thing that you find yourself doing.
I mean, part of it's my fault because Ghost of Tsushima Legends comes as part of Ghost of Tsushima. There's no need for me to claim that extra game. There wasn't, unless I wanted the PS5 version of that and weren't going to upgrade to the DLC and the full game PS5 version. But I didn't bloody know it was going to do this. Had I known, I wouldn't have done it. But there's no warning saying don't do this if you ever want to buy the upgrade. Because now my only option, if I wanted to play the PS5 version of Ghost of Tsushima, is to pay full whack.
Yeah.
There's no the £15 discount's not there. So
is that what it is? It's £25 or something. How much is it virtually?
I think it's $14 or $15.99 for the upgrade. Whereas to buy it properly would be 50, 60. I think it was actually they might have even put out £70. It's like, what are we doing? So that's why I've got the Xbox hat on. Been accused of being biased, but I've got Xbox hat, I've got a Nintendo hat, got a PlayStation hat here. So they'll get worn when I'm pissed off with one of the others.
But whoever's in our good books gets the hat.
Gets the hat
on the podcast.
Yeah. And that feels normally in the good books most of the time. I mean, sometimes he ain't doing a lot, but he's keeping out of sight, out of mind, so it's not really a problem.
You don't do an awful lot wrong. That's the key.
No, that's what you want to do. One thing I noticed actually in getting these hats is that I've obviously got an Xbox hat here, Xbox logo, blah blah blah. I've got a PlayStation hat up there, and I was like, I want a Nintendo hat, and then I thought, they're not like Xbox or PlayStation. Xbox and PlayStation, since they've begun, the consoles have been called Xbox and PlayStation. They're a number or series or whatever. Yeah. Nintendo rename the console every time.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of one size fits all, other than the Wii and the Wii U. That's the closest thing they've kind of done in terms of the naming. There's not even a Switch hat out there. So in the end, I just went for the OG Nintendo Entertainment System, aka NES, and that's where it all started. But I was sort of sitting there wondering what Ronnie wanted, because there ain't a console to attach it to. It has to be just the name, but they don't just do normal Nintendo ones. Anyway,
I've never really thought about that. It's like, otherwise, if you've got a Nintendo hat, it's like having a Microsoft hat or a Sony hat. Yeah. It's not
quite the same, is it? If they do a Switch hat, I'll buy it. I haven't been able to find one yet. There's probably one in Japan. They've actually got some really good merch that you can import, but I ain't paying that. So
I was going to say, it'd be silly money.
No, it's not worth doing. Fantasy Gaming League updates. So we've had a couple of new scores drop in. So Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin popped in. As we record this, that's sitting on a 73, and that's in Paper's team and in your team. That's a 72 and a 73, and Parky's as lowest game is a 76. So in trouble. I mean, I talked earlier about the pressure mountain, the pressure cooker, and we're in a situation where Parky's got one more game than you guys out, but the points difference 100. Now, he's only got to put 3 more games on the board and his roster's complete. You guys have got 4. Not looking good, is it?
Well, one of them's going to have to flunk. I can't remember what he's got left to come out, but if it looks if there's nothing in there that you think, well, then it's probably signed sealed, isn't it? Really?
Misread that. I think Parky's got four games. Paper's got 5 left. But
Okay. Oh, it's still the same position with, it is fine margins, and yeah, I mean 72 and you're looking. I always think you're looking minimum 80. Like
yeah,
for the FGL, for the Grand Prix, whatever it is, you want minimum 80s and you stand a chance. But you start racking up low 70s and and into the 60s even. It really does hurt you nowadays.
yeah, you can't really afford it, to be quite honest. And Paper, as I mentioned last week, had blinked and made a sub. Now I questioned the sub, saying, panicking, clutching at straws, like getting a bit desperate. And what he did is he subbed out Tunic, okay, for F1 2022. I've been through the reasons why I think that's the riskiest year to do it. But Tunic itself is now sitting on an 85, a perfectly good score, in line with the average that he had of an 85, which is now down to an 83. And Paper has subbed that out, and he left in his own choice of Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which is on a 73. Mistake, clearly.
12 points chucked.
It
just
is,
like that.
because it's 5 points for the transfer. So now, in order for it to make any sense, F1 2022 needs to sit on a 90.
Which it ain't.
It ain't going to happen, is it? Unlikely.
Nope.
So points have been flushed. Paper's making mistakes. He's on the ropes. Can he pull it back in the second half of the year? We're not even halfway through.
I mean, he thought that Tunic was going to be low 70s or something.
Yeah.
And then, so in his mind, if F1 got 80 or above, he's quids in. But to that point, it is risky. So I think the past few years, it's scored in the low 80s. If Tunic scored 75 and you have to pay 5-point penalty, then you're already scrapping at a few points if everything goes as expected.
Yeah.
I mean, I signed it off. I was like, whatever. Like, I'm not sitting here criticising on the basis that I didn't okay it as well. But I don't know. I don't know about Tunic. If you want to do it, you're the captain. Crack on. I'm not going to sit here and rock the boat.
Yeah, Adcock didn't cover himself in glory because he didn't stay. It's his game that he'd put in, and normally
he didn't back it.
No, he was like, that looks like lows. It looks like 70. So he obviously bottled it as well, and has completely washed his hands of that season.
I mean, the numbers in front of me made sense. Adcock's game, he went, well, I think it's going to be low 70s, and chucked out F1, and F1 was going to be high 80s. I was like, yeah, if that's what we think, go for it. I don't know any better. Crack on. So, but it has turned out to be, unfortunately, a wrong decision. So that data is missing this year, unfortunately, it seems.
He hasn't mentioned the data a lot. I think it has gone walkies, so he needs to be looking after it. Let's get into the main-ish topic for this week. Hogwarts Legacy, where a Sony state of play reveal of this. Odd that Sony put it as a state of play when it's coming to all platforms, including Switch's list as well. And I had a look at that game and I thought, how's that happening? Is it going to be another cloud business? But there's rumours circulating that it's going to have a physical version. I'm like, well, don't get it on that if you've got a choice. That's my advice. But yeah, they've given it the state of play spotlight. Last week we had a load of, or the week before last, we had a load of indie games from Japan mostly that were shown, a bit of Ghostwire. But this was 14 minutes or so of gameplay and developer narration. By far, my favourite way to have a game presented to me. Now, if you want me to try and look into a game and to understand what it's doing, this is a really good way of doing it. I mean, it's time consuming, but it's really good. It gives me a good idea of what's going on. Now, the question off the back here is, I ain't involved with Harry Potter. I ain't read the books. I ain't seen the films. I might watch the films later this year. We'll see. They're all recorded, sitting there waiting as someone decides to think it's the Bahrain Grand Prix down this road. What's your experience with the Harry Potter franchise? Are you a bookworm and a film guru, or one or the other, or watched it not really interested, read it not really interested? Where do we stand for Harry Potter?
Yeah, so I wasn't a bookworm of it. I think I got halfway from. I tried to read the books when I was on holiday a couple of years back by the pool, and it just weren't working for me. I was like, I watched all the films as they were released from start with the Philosopher's Stone all the way through to the end. I've seen them all. I've seen them all probably 10 times each minimum or something over the years. Like, I've watched them a lot. I like the films. I like the story. I like the characters. I like the lore. I like the world. Not a big fan of the spin-off stuff, but
What's that,
I do
Fantastical
like.
Beast? Is it or? Is that
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just couldn't get into it when I started
So
watching
that
it.
Lord of the Rings, and they done that. What's that Goblin thing they did? What was it called? That spin-off.
Can't remember.
What's that series
But
called?
it would be the one on Amazon, the recent one, or one in the
No, they
past.
done the films. They done another trilogy, didn't they?
Oh,
What's the goblins called? What are they called? Those little fucks with the feet. What have I forgotten?
Hobbits.
The Hobbit.
Yeah,
They done a
Hobbit.
Hobbits. They done a Hobbit
You
series,
throw
didn't
me
they?
with goblin.
Yeah, well, they look like
goblin,
they're not
really
goblins,
thrown
are
me,
they? They're
yeah.
not. They're just small
No.
humans with big feet.
Yeah,
That's my fault.
yeah. I did watch all the Hobbit films, but again, I never felt like they were as good as the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same. It's the same with the Harry Potter stuff. But I really like it. I played, ironically, like the original PS1 Harry Potter game, but I didn't play it on my PS1 at the time. I had it on PC, and
Christ.
it was literally the worst experience of my life. Honestly, I must have been running about 10 FPS when it was playing it. It was horrific, like almost borderline unplayable. So when I was watching this gameplay, the new one, it very much was that game that I played when I was a kid was still kind of in the back of my mind. But yeah, it's I'm pretty, I wouldn't call myself like a proper Potterhead, but
Watched the
I really
films
do
10
like it.
times. Fucking
Yeah, I know.
loads.
But I've never been to Harry Potter World. I've never done all that sort of stuff. I don't, have a Gryffindor jumper and scarf and whatnot. I do like the films though. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's good because I've got none of that experience, and this might be the way in for me if I don't watch the films like in the spring and summer. But this has got a release window of holiday 2022. Probably won't make it if you were to ask me honestly. I think that's coming 2023. And the other important thing to note for some people out there, this is Avalanche Software that developed this, not Avalanche Studios. Now, Avalanche Studios have done Rage 2, Just Cause, and Mad Max. So they're the guys responsible for that. This is not the same team. This is a different team. I think they're in Salt Lake, Utah, and they're called Avalanche Software. And their games, this is the last 4 games they've done. 2013, Disney Infinity. 2014, Disney Infinity 2.0. 2015, Disney Infinity 3.0.
See where we're going here.
2017, Cars 3, Driven to Win. So, I mean, my biggest takeaway from this 14-minute kind of slice of the game, and it wasn't just an uninterrupted slice. They jumped around and showed all the different elements. But this is incredibly ambitious for their previous games. You look at Cars 3, Driven to Win. That's nowhere near the scope of what we even saw in this 14-minute clip. But I did think it looked interesting. You could tell the developers have a real love and attention to detail for Harry Potter. So if you are a Potterhead, you kind of think that in terms of accuracy, that you're in sort of safe hands here. So that box is going to be ticked. They're always going to do something, but I think genuinely they're going to get the right at least vibe going. But very, very ambitious game considering what's come before them. And what are your thoughts on what you saw? I mean, is this now getting itself onto a sniffometer for later in the year or early 23 if it does indeed get delayed?
Yeah, I think anybody that likes gaming and likes Harry Potter, this seems like
it's dream world, isn't it? Almost.
It's pretty much up there with I'm trying to think if there's been a proper like Harry Potter game that's been released on console since that PS1 version. I'm sure there probably has been, but I can't remember one getting on the
I'll have a
radar.
little look and I'll report back.
I'd be severely surprised if there wasn't, but I don't remember one.
Not to this scale.
No, not to this. I mean, there's a mobile game that I think is run by the same people that do Pokemon Go, that they do, but I don't recall one at least getting on my radar. But I thought it looked good. Like it kind of ticks all the things that you'd want to do in the Harry Potter world. The concern from my perspective, and this is only from previously playing the old one, I remember in some of my old gripes, was the dueling and the combat. It doesn't, and it didn't lend itself to being particularly fluid. And I did notice, like in some of the gameplay, when you're battling, you get these standard people that just wait until you stopped engaging with one enemy before you engage with the other. And I thought, that always annoys me. But that's a little gripe I've got anyway. Like, why would 4 wizards just wait? Go, nah. We'll let them fight.
Let's have some
and then I'll
honour
jump
here
in.
and let them just do it 1v1.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they just did it for the demo, so they didn't have the player getting fucking blown away every 2 seconds. But
yeah, but yeah, I like the idea of a lot. Putting things together using different spells and combos, and I like the progression element. I think that's something that was perhaps missing before. I mean, you learned different spells in the old one that you can use in battle and in solving puzzles and stuff, but I like the idea that you can kind of customize your character to be the wizard that you kind of want it to be, if that makes sense. But yeah, you could do all the stuff. You do potions, you go in the room requirement, you kind of, make your own stuff, you level up, you can do quests. It's kind of like an open world Harry Potter game.
Yep.
Which, when we've been discussing Pokemon Go, and it's kind of like this 3D world of Pokemon Go, and you go, this is Dreamworld stuff. I mean, it's
Arceus.
It's similar. Yeah, this is Arceus for Potter fans. At least it looks that way.
Yeah.
I am just slightly concerned a bit the focus that is perhaps on combat. I think that would be my overriding thoughts on it. Is probably the heavy load it felt like there was on in terms of combat and fighting enemies, which, if it's done right, could be good. And it did look like it was, pretty seamless. But yeah, I wonder if it will just get a little bit annoying.
Yeah,
that
is a key component. 'Cause, I mean, you would assume there's going to be very little in terms of melee combat for this, because you're a fucking wizard with a stick, so you need to be casting those spells. It's all going to be at range. I imagine you'll get area of effect attacks and spells and whatnot. And it does depend how they can sort of mesh those together. Just going back to the former games, there's been a shitload that have come out.
Yeah.
I picked 2 at random since 2001. Anyway, there's been all sorts of VR spin-offs, all sorts of crap. But I picked 2 at random. I picked the first one, which was Philosopher's Stone. Metacritic rating of 64, so that's no good. And then we had Deathly Hallows Part 2, which was a game that came out in 2011. Metacritic score of 44. So they've not been well received. This franchise, in terms of video games, probably the best of the lot, I would imagine, would be the Lego games that I remember came out sort of 2010. They probably are the best version of this franchise in game form. So it hasn't got a particularly high bar to try and get over, but I guess it's whether it borders onto a stage where, if you're a fan like yourself, who's not a Potterhead but would like to play something, but it has to be good. It can't just be acceptable. You don't get away on franchise alone. I'm sure it will sell bundles, but for me as well, it's got to be a good video game at the heart of it.
This is a difficulty, I think, that they have, not just with this, but a lot of other franchises, is that people that don't particularly like the lore or aren't interested in the story or whatever might not necessarily find them to be particularly good video games. And then if they don't satisfy everything that all the, Potterheads, for want of a better term, want from a game, then they won't like it either. So it's a really difficult balance in trying to appeal. Who are you appealing to? Are you appealing to the market of people that are a fan of that franchise? Yeah. Are you appealing to everyone? Or, because they won't just be wanting to go for the people that haven't played it before. And it's similar to what they did with Arceus, where they don't want to get snarled up in all that previous lore. They don't want to worry about all the characters that and everything. They want to be able to start fresh. So they've done a similar thing here, which is set it about 100 and something years before all the Harry Potter stuff. So they don't have to worry about all that crap. Yeah. Like and getting certain characters in.
Snuffledore ain't the right actor.
But then as soon as you start having to get those sort of people involved, the costs go up and all the complexity around rights and all that kind of stuff, starts getting ridiculous. So I think that's the right decision. And it's still got enough of that, it still looks like Hogwarts, and it's got all the rooms and all the bits you'd expect. So I feel like they're directing it in the right way. But as you say, that lack of previous delivery, I guess, in terms of a like-for-like game or a game that's been received well, the trust that you'd have in that studio to deliver it is questionable.
Yeah, I mean, I do. It's not quite the same, but I do. You know, and this has changed my perspective on that issue. Really, for me, the standouts are Guerrilla Games, who did the Killzone franchise first-person shooter, and then came out of Horizon Zero Dawn, which was a big open-world third-person action story-based RPG. And I was like, you could never have paid me enough money to believe that they could be capable of this. So sometimes it's just having the opportunity to expand your scope and go for it. And that's what I hope happens here with Hogwarts Legacy. Hopefully we get some of it later on this year. But any final thoughts on this? And before we close it down and hand over to myself and whoever else, probably Adkins or Adcock, I assume. I'll pull something out of the archives that we've already recorded.
I just hope it's good.
Yeah.
I would like a good Harry Potter game. I think it seems to tick all the boxes that I'd want. All the crafting bits, all the potion element, the battling, the environment, everything. The raw elements appear to be there. It's just a question of whether they could deliver it, I guess, and to the right level. I don't want anything, raw around the edges, and I want something good,
quality.
So maybe it's like 25 years since Philosopher's Stone or something was released. I think it was like early 2000s.
Jeez, was it 2001? So
21 years. Like maybe 21 years later, we could finally get a good Harry Potter game, and it might convince you to watch the films.
Yeah, it might do. I might just watch them before anyway, just because I've got them there. But we'll see. This will definitely help for sure. And given it's a prequel, well, it's set before the film. It's not really a prequel because I don't think it's set up to go. Oh, this is the bloody legacy of Harry. It's not. It's like it's just that world set at that time. But that means there's less baggage for me to have to get on board. The most concerning thing about that stat you just mentioned, I mean, Philosopher's Stone coming out in 2001, is that in theory someone's been born in that time, gone to school, and finished school in that time. How old does that make you feel?
It's crazy, isn't it? I think one of the reasons why it originally resonated Harry Potter was because they were similar-ish age at the time as to what we were. I mean, what I'd been 13-ish in 2001, I think, 12, 13. And they were just going into secondary school age at a similar time. So it's kind of like they grew up at the same time that we did. But there's people that love this that didn't do that.
No.
It's strange.
It is strange,
but
indeed.
Fingers crossed they could deliver it and we get a good game. Everyone wins then.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. Anyway, that's enough for us this week. As I said, we're back with a game impression / report just after this short transition to the second part of Idle Game Chat. See you on the other side. Here we are then, back with another impression session for some video game chat, because this is a video game podcast, you see. So we do like to talk about some of the stuff.
News outlet, people.
Well, fucking for weeks on end, we was financial analysts at some point doing all sorts of mergers, acquisitions, all coming out of our asses. So nice
New
to
Bloomberg.
Yeah, nice to get back into just some basic gaming. On this edition, we're going to go with Halo Infinite. So Xbox Series X, I played this on via the Game Pass. I know you've played it, but not finished the campaign.
No.
I have.
I think I may have put more hours into the online.
Well, yeah, that's
than the thing so far, but I have barely touched that campaign and must sort it.
Yeah, it's so I've played a bit of both. I think on balance, I've probably played the campaign just slightly more. But the review or the impressions, whatever you want to call this, is going to be focused mainly around the campaign.
Yeah.
The multiplayer stuff is there. I enjoyed it. I haven't played it for a while. It's been like over a month since I've popped it on, so it hasn't got those hooks in for a regular slot, which some multiplayer games do. We had a good time playing it back in Christmas.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
we had a good session there.
dreaded sesh that it lasted about 4 in the morning, didn't it, for you boys?
Well, we came off eventually and went on to Valorant, and that's what.
Oh, that's right.
That's the one that goes on till the early hours, and I was sitting there chatting to fucking Dave till 4 a.m. So that was
Putting back the wine.
No, exactly. I think I was on beer that night.
Oh, was you beer that night?
Yeah.
It was the wine.
Still did some. Yeah, wine would have done me in, but
Yeah, you'd have been fast asleep before 4.
oh yeah, absolutely. But Halo Infinite. So we've got a campaign here. This is 343 again. I've played all the mainline Halo games and their respective campaigns. I think I played through 3 twice, maybe 3 times. Once was on Legendary, and I played through Halo 5, unbelievably, twice. Co-op though on the second one. They've been. I've always thought they've been decent. Like, got to the Halo party late. Like, Halo 3 was the first one. Got that on release. But yeah, been a bit up and down roller coaster.
So when mine was 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
ODST, Reach.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
5.
So 343 have had a bit of a stinker, particularly on the campaign front. They've not been appreciated by the Halo fan base and others. So this is an opportunity to set that right. Third sort of go at it. And on the whole, I'd say they've done a pretty good job. They've certainly mixed things up, going for a more of an open world-ish structure. And that's great to see. And the introduction of the grappling hook is just brilliant for the gameplay. It really is. I was actually disappointed in the multiplayer that wasn't a standard tool. I'd always get it, and someone would kill me after I swung once. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that really you should get spoiled by having that for the whole game, and then once you go back into multiplayer, you're like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
How can I have that? Because it is for it's very like it just gives you a whole new term, like a verticality that you didn't get with Halo.
Yeah, absolutely. And the open kind of world stuff is good. I think it's a good way to go. Unfortunately, throughout the campaign, the main story missions, the majority of them, take place in enclosed corridors.
Yeah.
Some people go, "Oh, classic Halo, that's back," and I was like, "Well, no."
Get me in them big team battles for the main campaign.
Get me in this open world that you've created, where you can kind of attack things from any angle with different vehicles. You can, one of the great things I loved about, in fact, my favourite thing about this campaign, the game, was just picking up the Marines and the soldiers, putting them in the back of a warthog, or I can't remember what it's called, the one that just has seats in it. Bollocks. That's annoying me. But you can put 4 or 5 of them into there, and just driving to an area where I've got to clear down a boss or something, and just unleashing hell with me and the Marine buddies.
One of the things they probably didn't do the open world, having the main missions there, is because once you start to unlock certain vehicles, say, like, was it the Pelican? Big fucking Wasp. Is there guns on the Wasp or something? You could just stand there and drill it with that.
Yeah, that is true. Like, you can, once you unlock like the air vehicles, and there's a tank as well you can unlock. So
Scorpion, is it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, Scorpion. So that's all done through carrying out sort of relatively mundane tasks in the open world. Killing certain bosses, destroying propaganda outposts.
Yeah, I did quite enjoy some of that. It felt very Ubisoft Clear Down Merchant. But yeah, I did find myself sort of tackling area by area before I moved on. That's probably why I didn't move on with the story so much.
No, it's one of those things where you can get nice and distracted.
It's not too bloated, but
no, it's not. That's the thing. It's not bloated really at all. And there's good things, like you can pick up, like one of the introductions to the campaign is that you have abilities and tech, I think they refer to it as, that you can upgrade. So you can pick up these Spartan cores, which are basically like collectibles. You go and find those, and you pop them in and think, oh, I'm going to improve my grappling hook, or I'm going to improve my shield, or whatever you might be given throughout. So I think you get 4 or 5 abilities throughout it that you can kind of upgrade as you will. Grappling hook's always got to be the first upgrade, though. I just refuse to to allow anybody to tell me otherwise. That has to go. Razorback, that's what that fucking vehicle's called.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known that.
No, I had to look it up. I didn't. I don't be knowing Halo that well. So it's clearly a big departure from the structure and from what they've been doing previously. It comes at some cost. Like, there is just no variety in location or landscape.
Right.
Biome, as people like to say these days. Like, it's just that same sort of green, foresty type landscape. There's no snow level. There's no desert. There's no jungle. So
yeah, I suppose you had that in 4 and 5. What they've done is they've gone right. People love classic Halo. What they love is that first Halo Combat Evolved, the second level where you come out of that fucking ship that's crashed, and there's that you see the Halo world. That's what they've gone for, and that's all you're getting is just that.
Yeah, it's that's clearly one of the cuts they had to make, was that they had to. I imagine at some point they probably thought, it'd be good to go and have like a full, maybe like a zone, like big zones that were different landscapes. But we knew there was issues with the development of this. We had a whole year delay on it, so it wouldn't surprise me if some of that ended up on the cutting room floor. Might be coming later as a sort of a story DLC or package, because they have committed to releasing more chapters. And this Infinite seems like it's going to be a platform to build upon, which is an interesting way to do it. But some of the more interesting things that you can do is tackling, like you get like bounties put on powerful enemies, and you can go and defeat them. That will then unlock like a unique weapon they're holding. So it's normally like a supercharged version of a weapon you already know, but it's much more powerful. And then you can use that and put that into sort of your forward operating bases. And I like the forward operating base as well. These are like little areas that you take over, much like not a tower, like a base that you do in Far Cry. You take it down, that then becomes a fast travel point. And then from there you can call in your vehicles, you can call in different types of weapons, you can get the GIs or the Marines into the fucking Warthog or the Razorback, as I've just found out what it's called again. And they're scattered around, and you have to earn them. You have to go in there and kill the enemies, and then hack the computer, and then you're in. But that's a nice way of just coming back and just sort of resetting and going, right, there's a powerful enemy just over there. Maybe I'll go and tackle him next. Yeah. But it's nice to have options, and really the open world nature really blends so well with the combat. Yeah, and the shooting and the grappling hook, it really is the best of times. The one thing that I just kept thinking about though was, this is great, but how much better would this be if we had co-op? Yeah.
Still not here. I thought I might have been able to wingle that by not playing it straight off the bat.
No, it's still not here. I mean, yeah, that's that'd be so good. Like in the sandbox environment, you really will have a great time with people. Like, crank it up on the legendary, have a tough test, and you could like have like a whole base. Like, there's certain like tick off tasks, like you take down a whole base, which is one of the things you can do. They're quite big, so you could actually set up to have 3 different attack points and cause all sorts of chaos in there. But clearly that was one of the things that was sacrificed for the release. So yeah. We didn't get that. No. In terms of presentation, performance-wise, I think it's a good-looking game, but it's not a complete stunner. Like, no, there is. We ain't got Craig, the fucking monkey, or whatever.
I've heard he's a badass now.
Yeah, it's he's not. Things don't look that bad, but it's certainly, particularly when you get into aerial vehicles like popping and things like that, you can notice.
Right.
It doesn't look as polished as what some games have done for this.
To be honest, when they released that, obviously we knew that was one of the biggest criticisms of when they released that first bit of gameplay, and that's why it got delayed again for a further year. Then they released a new trailer, and to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, I couldn't actually see the real difference. No. It wasn't until a sort of like Digital Foundry breakdown of how different it looked. And it's one of those things that when you do comparison side by side, you sort of go, oh right, yeah, no, it does look more improved. But like you say, in the general scope of things, whilst looking at it and in game playing, and you're not sitting there looking for every nook and cranny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of it didn't. Nothing stuck out to me or as little as I've played. It wasn't like, oh, look at this.
No, and it isn't one of those games, unfortunately. It doesn't really leverage the true sort of power of what we've got going, but it's acceptable, you know.
Yeah.
I did have some technical issues.
Oh.
I had a lock-up in the game where it just freeze. The music would still play, but I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of it. I had to close the app, close the game, start it back up and do it again. And it did it again in the same spot. And I was like, right. Have I got a progress issue? Is it going to keep doing this every time?
Yeah.
Fortunately, because it's an open environment mostly, this wasn't in one of like the narrative or the story missions. Instead of going straight forwards to the forward operating base that I wanted to take over, I just took a right and went round, and it stuttered a few times, so something was still happening, but eventually it cleared and I didn't have the problem again. But really strange, because I was thinking, oh shit, is this it? Is this like this game breaking error that I'm going to find? But again, it's the advantage of having these openish games is that I just took another route and it solved the problem. Because that's a corridor. You got to go down that corridor. You've got nothing else.
I had a similar problem with what was it? Parable. There was like a door, and every time I went through it, it froze my computer and crashed. And I had to close it down. And I was like googling it, and there was like no one sort of, it wasn't a known bug or anything. The only thing I found was like it could sometimes do that if you're playing at like 120 hertz or something. Like I think the CPU just gets, it sort of goes to load and it sort of just gets overwhelmed and crash. But it was just literally this exact door, and it was unfortunately the way to finish the level, so I couldn't do it. But, yeah, strange bug. So it sounds like it could have been something like that.
Yeah, and this next part is not a bug, but it's another thing that irritated me. When these Spartan cores, so you take over a forward operating base, and then it unlocks the locations in that area of the map. So it's similar. We've seen all this before in other games, which is fine. Like, it works. It's like, okay, I can now see there's 3 cores in this area. I'll go and get them. You go and get them, pick them up, power up your grappling hook, and you think, happy days. You wander off. A few hours later, you think, oh, let me just check to see how many of these cores I've got. And it keeps the icon on the map, even though you've collected it, and just graze it. Just changes the tone of the icon just slightly, just so you can just about see it. And I'm like, just take it off.
Yeah.
I've done it. Do you remember Metroid Dread did this as well?
Oh god, yeah, it did.
It drove me up the wall.
That was annoyance.
I don't know why they're doing it.
Yeah, they still not sussed that. No, I had to do that. I had to hover above each of them because it says
if you
cleared.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell. So, that's annoying. I thought that might have got patched out by the time I'd done. But even make it red or something, that would have been fine.
I know, it's just like, it's just more clutter. I mean, it's not a cluttered map, to be fair. Like, they do a good job of spreading things out. And, yeah, but that bugged me for some reason. It's just irritating. Especially when I was at the end and I was trying to like clear down and get all the cores that I'd missed. Yeah. I was running into that constantly. I was like, fuck off. But, there we go. Story front is, I'd say it's okay. I had no idea what was going on for ages. But honestly, the game just kind of starts and you're like, I don't remember any of this from 5, and I'm not a Halo connoisseur when it comes to lore. I can barely remember what happened in 5, but I was like, this wasn't what I remember. Cortana? Going rogue.
Hello?
Who's this big monkey that's thrown me off the fucking ship or whatever he's done? So it doesn't do it, just sort of chucks you in at this new venture, and then I guess over time tries to catch you up. But
right, because these are returning, not characters, but a returning faction, aren't they? These from, they've seen these before in the Halo Wars games, I believe.
I think they're in the Banished. Yeah, they're in Halo Wars 2, I believe.
Oh, right.
Again, I haven't played those, so I kind of felt, maybe I should have done. But I think actually one of the, I was just slagging off this story. One of the good things they do universe-wise is a job of sort of building up who the Banished are within the game. I think they're aware that not everyone played Halo Wars 2.
Right. Yeah.
So they do a good job of that. But I think overall, I don't know if they were trying to like, because everyone just, I think that the general consensus of 5 Guardians was that story, they're diabolical. Like, and I don't know if this is like a course correction, so it needs to like be a bit more of a, a bit of a flatter story. And we're gonna relay some foundational stuff, and then moving forward, maybe you'll want to come along on the journey with us. 'Cause it felt like a bit of a pivot in that sense. But it's not great. I mean, I'm not sure if Halo necessarily had the best stories in the world going back.
No, I mean, the deep lore into it.
The lore is cool.
mysterious.
Like, I love the universe, and you're right. That stuff is cool, and I think this kind of adds to that. So it doesn't take a shit on it like fucking Spartan Locke and his fucking merry mob did.
Yeah. What's I'm sure they've had them in previous games, but memory escapes me again. But they seem to be really pushing the antagonist of this one. What's he like as a character, and worthy or?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's one of those things where they do a lot of the. You get to see his viewpoint, so you'll watch him conducting a meeting or something. So you'll get to know who this chap is, and I think genuinely they're going for something probably a bit deeper, but it doesn't quite pull off. But
Sure.
If you can name the antagonist of 5 and 4,
Yeah.
I will give you a golden handshake. And now I've said that, I actually can't remember the chap's name.
Old chap. I remember.
He's one of those. I know people get annoyed when I call them monkeys, but he's one of the elites.
One of the elite.
But they do look like monkeys to me. They do, or apes. I don't know what's the right term for them. But yeah, so they go for like a bit more of a character building session of him, and there's some interesting moments with the pilot that you meet early on. And your new AI, the weapon. So that's clearly, a part of the game that they've that they're going to focus on. I mean, overall, it's a bit of a reset, and I think, to be honest, it needs a bit of a reset.
What was lengthwise? I remember that was a bit talked about beforehand. And
Apparently,
stuff.
this monkey's name's Escaram. Escaram. I'm pronouncing that wrong. That clearly wasn't how it was done, but he's a big ape. Look him up.
Big ape. That's him. Yeah, I think I vaguely remember it now. But yeah, lengthwise, there was complaints about too short. People think, did it feel? I find with these games, I seem to remember some 1, 2 being quite long, lengthy for what they were. These sort of, I know it's a hard to get right, because you get like a COD fucking bolt on where it's like 4 hours. You're like, right, fucking hell, 70 quid for that. And then you get like a 20-hour one. Everyone go, fucking hell, how long's this game?
Yeah, I think it's about right for what it is, because I think it starts to run out of tricks as it's starting to wrap up, and I think that's kind of where you want to be. It's about 10 hours-ish. I probably took a bit longer again because I'm slow. I'm fucking about loading all the Marines up, driving around, doing some sightseeing with them. Because they're about to die on the mission they're going with. No way do I take them anywhere safe. Nearly every time they die. Actually, some of them died before I even got them in the fucking vehicle. Because you call it in, the little chap comes along and drops it off. And these silly cunts were standing under where it was dropping off, and it was landing on their heads.
That is brilliant when that happens.
Dead.
You just chuck them off the end of the cliff as well. Just get the bail out at the last minute.
Then use my grappling hook to just go up the wall.
Go back up. Yeah, that is excellent.
I actually might do that now. It's giving me a good idea. But no, in closing, they're coming up from the ashes really free for free, because they buried this franchise under some what I would consider not very good games on many fronts. And this is a good positive step. It's not without its faults. It's not going to blow your socks off, but just to get this kind of back on track is a job in itself, and I think they've done a good enough job. I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do with it, how they add to it. Can we get some more environments to play around in, that sort of stuff? I'm sure that's all in the works. And on the multiplayer front, we touched on it at the start, it's pretty good. I mean, it's free to play, it's separate, the progression not very good at all, in my opinion. It's still a complaint for people, but I don't know. That's kind of the trade-off you get when it's free to play.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we've had some like them night sessions we had. They were great, like some big team battle things.
It's a good casual shooter, I find.
Yeah, it is.
You just all bung on to big team battle and just tear it up. And it's not high pressured. You're all fucking about on vehicles and pissing around. That's what I like anyway about sort of Halo's multiplayer. That's how I've always liked it.
And it's all cosmetics as well. Which is nice. It's not DLC for fucking XP fodder.
No,
at least I think there is.
no. You can buy challenge skips.
Right.
So that's the thing about the progression is it's tied to doing challenges mostly. If you get a real shitter, which is like do 18 headshots on the bounce without taking any damage, like you're like, well, I'm never going to do that. You can skip it out, but you can pay for that. But
all rewards are cosmetic.
All rewards are cosmetics. Yeah, there's no gameplay. There's no like permanent grappling hook ability that you can get. They might rotate, or they may well have done, but they may rotate in a mode that's got you starting with a grappling hook. I think that'd be fun to do. They can do these events, but solid to jump back into. But I think overall, Halo Infinite, 7.5.
7.5, respectable.
I think it's still got quite a bit of room to improve upon.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything particularly wrong, but there's a bit of scruffiness. Like I mentioned those lockups and story's a bit crap, but the gameplay, like the gunplay, the sandbox, that's all really good fun.
There's them epic Halo moments as well, where the sort of dun, 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 kicks in. Did you get any of them sort of like, this is Halo?
Not yet.
No.
I think I'm over Master Chief and his little crusade.
Damn.
But no, maybe the next one I will. I don't know. I obviously came into this with a very sceptical eye because of 4 and 5. And in comparison to those, this is much, much better. But they were, in my opinion, not all that great. And there's still some issues of it. Clearly, some teething issues. But overall, worth a go.
Do you say to 343, stick with the open world or go back to corridor sniffing?
No, stick with the open world. Do not go back to a more corridor because that's where I found it to be the most unfulfilling, was during those moments. And unfortunately, most of the story stuff takes place in there. Okay, you might initiate the mission in the open world, like you might go to a base, clear out, and then go into a place. But the main bulk of the mission was taking place in these and again, they were really boring and uninspired when it came to locations, like the same fucking walls, the same floors, the same sort of settings. Good thing actually, just as an ending note, I liked they do like there's powerful enemies that essentially form as like bosses. So they have an energy bar. They'll normally have like a shield and a health, and you can't just take these suckers down easily. They take a bit of work. Although if you've got like 4 grenades and you get like 2 stickies and 2 of those like those other stick ones, you can normally get them down quite far and just finish them off. But I quite like that little change because historically most of the enemies, even the top ones, were just numbers, whereas here they actually do give you like one-on-one battles with with some bruises.
I think I cheesed the first boss. Is it this way?
It's quite tough at times.
It was, I think I remember dying quite a few times. It just didn't. I think I pumped about 6 hours, 7 hours into it. I think, and no, that's probably too much. Actually, probably about 3 or 4. But anyway, the first boss sort of went up into an area, and I managed to get one of those. Is it Ghost? The sort of the Covenant like hover ship thing with a gun.
Oh yeah.
I managed to get that up into the tower, and I just literally used like a spiral going all the way up to the tower. And I managed to get it up to the boss room and just drilled him with that. And I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant!"
Yeah, and that's the thing, because one of the good things about Infinite is that it lets you do things like that because it's a sandbox.
You can never do that. Yeah,
it's like that's good fun when you kind of figure out these little strategies.
Beat the system.
It does feel like that, and it's good fun. And you know, the grappling hook has to stay now. So
so that's in now.
That's your lot.
For most open world games, that's a written rule now.
Seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a Pokemon. Where's your fucking grappling hook?
Yeah. Well, Spider-Man have a grappling hook. I don't need it. I've got webs. They're saying it's not a grappling hook, Peter. But Miles has got one.
Do that in the middle of a fucking desert. What are you gonna do then?
Right, that'll do for Halo Infinite. Nice 7.5 from me.
Lovely.
And then if you get round to finishing it, we'll probably report back for a little quick one. See if you're in line with me or got different opinions. But we will log off for this week. If you've made it this far, thanks again. Continue to spread the good word. Leave us a review, like the video, or support us at patreon.com/Dimp Digital. Grassroots, independent outfit trying to bumble our way through the world of gaming. Anyway, nothing more for me to say here, though, other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.